Hey, period 8. This is first day of our new type of learning. We're going to start off with some straight up notes. 4.2 graph decay functions. Um, I do want to say that it's going to be a different style, and I hope you guys make sure to submit your work, and particularly on time, and try your best, okay? So let's just talk about how we're going to graph these and what I'm going to expect you. And then we're going to do some today, and then tomorrow, and I'll tell you tomorrow, we're probably just going to practice graphing both. And then the day after, maybe I'll post a test or something like that. Or do just a general review and then post a test. Okay, so graphing decay functions. It's actually a lot similar to graphing growth. So I'm going to first do a growth function. So let's do, what did we do yesterday? Y, or last time we saw each other, y equals 3 to the x power. And what I ask you to do is from -1, make a table for x and y. And in the table, we're going to fill in -1, 0, 1. So I'm going to do 3 to the -1 power. Remember, -1 power, you move it down. So that's 1 over 3. So I'm going to put over here 1 over 3. 3 to the 0 power, anything to the 0 power becomes 1. And then 3 to the 1 power, so 3 to the 1 power is 3, because anything to 1 power is itself. So that's my table, and that's what I would expect you to grow. And I just want you to know, it kind of looks like this. If you remember, I showed you the picture. We didn't focus on the picture a lot. But you can see how the number starts low on the ground, and it raises up to the top like that. So that is how it's grown, okay? So now the next question is going to talk about what a decay is and how is that slightly different. Okay, so now we're going to talk about decay. And I just jump cut, so I'll give you a second to copy this down. But y equals 1/3, and you could just pause the video whenever you need to or go back. So y equals 1/3 to the x power. So notice this is a little different. Last time we did 3, something bigger than 1. Now we're doing 1/3, which is smaller than 1. That's going to cause our thing to look slightly different. I'm going to still do the same rule that I told you to do, and I'm going to follow it. Go from -1, 0, and 1. And those are going to be my 2 points. Okay. So 1/3 to the -1 power. Don't get freaked out because there's a decimal or a fraction here. So 1/3 to the -1 power. As we said, if it's a negative power, it moves it up. Or if it was on the top, it would move down. But since it's on the bottom, it's going to move up. So instead of being 1/3, it's going to become 3. So 3 is your answer for -1 power. 1/3 to the 0 power, anything to the 0 power is still 1. And 1 to the 1/3 power, or 1/3 to the 1 power, that's going to stay exactly the same, 1/3. So, what does that mean? That means from this question, this right here, shown right here, is the negative numbers are big numbers, because -2 would become 9 and -3 would become 27. So the negative x values are big, while the positive x values are small. So the growth, so this is a decay right here, so I'll put a little d next to decay. The growth one looked like this. So starting from the left, I'm growing to be a bigger number. So decay means I'm decaying. Decay means I'm like withering. I'm getting smaller. I'm shortening. I'm decaying down to a lower number. So it kind of looks like this. Okay? And very important, it doesn't pass by x. And I might talk about either this video or next video why I never pass by x and what do we call that, if I talk about it at all. Now, we're going to practice, the next question is going to be practicing horizontal and vertical shifts. So we have our next question here. 1/2 to the x power plus 3. Now, if you remember my formula from Thursday, it's going to be the same thing. Y equals a times b to the x power there's going to be a minus h in the exponent and a plus k. So just like the vertex form, which is up here on the right, just like the vertex form, and I forgot where else we use h and k, but this tells us the important piece. That's going to be horizontal and vertical shifts. All right, so that is the formula. So what we're going to do is point out any h's or k's. Now, what I'm going to do first is write the problem without the h and k. So this is going to be 1/2 to the x power. And let me make the table for that. So x, y. So step 1. And maybe I should write down the steps. Or I'll type out the steps, and then we could check that out. So I'll type out the steps. They'll be attached to the Google Classroom post. But step 1 is to do the equation without the shifts. So no h and no k. So 1/2 x. So let's do that first. 1/2 to the -1 power. Like I said, if you're on top, you go down. So if you're down, you go up. So this is going to be a 2. 1/2 to the 0 power. 1/2 to the 0 power is 1. And also, I just want to point this out. You could do this everything here on your calculator. If you want help with your calculator, I will post an office hours probably tomorrow, just practicing the calculator stuff. And then the next one is x to the 1 power to 1/2, so that's going to be just a 1/2 a power, because it's exactly the same. All right, so we have our regular here. Let's say this is our base form. Let's say this right here is our base form, 1/2 x. Now this plus 3 is a k. So plus 3 adds to the y's. So I'm going to rewrite the equation now. And I'm going to rewrite the x's and y's. Well, there's no h here, so the h's are exactly the same. And we're happy with that. Now the y's are going to get plus 3'd. So 2 plus 3 is going to be 5. 1 plus 3 is going to be 4. And 3 plus 1/2 is 3.5. If you want it as a decimal, it's 3.5. So this right here is your correct answer. Horizontal and vertical shifts are not that scary. You got to find the base first, then add the shifts to it. I'm going to do one more with both horizontal and vertical shift in it. All right. This, I believe, will be the last problem of the video today. Let's just do y equals 1/4 x is plus 2, 1/4 x is plus 2 plus 5. So notice the plus 2 is the exponent while plus 5 is a normal number, okay? All right, so let me just identify what my h and k is in this one, because maybe that'll make it easier. So h, remember the equation is x minus h, so you got to flip the sign. So flipping the sign, that's going to be -2. Well, my k here, my k which is right here, is exactly the same, which is 5. All right, that's pretty nice. So let's now rewrite our equation as the base form. So I'm going to go 1/4 with no horizontal or vertical shifts, no h or no k. So 1/4, and that looks a bit sloppy, so I'm going to rewrite it. But it's going to be just 1/4 to the x power. Okay? So then we're going to make our table, x, y. So this is going to be our base table. This is going to be the base table. So then from here, 1/4 to the -1 power. I'm not going to show out the work because you should pay attention. 1/4 is just going to flip the fraction. So that's going to be 4. 1/4 to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is just 1. And then 1 to the 1/4 power, or 1/4 to the 1 power, it's just going to be 1/4. It stays the same. So now we're going to do the one with the shift. So this is the shift one. So we call this, let's call this base. Let's call this shift. Okay, so we have our shift one here. X, Y. Now let's check the x's. My h was -2. So now I got to do -1 plus -2. That makes a big negative, which is -3. Next one, 0 plus negative 2. That's negative 2. And 1 plus negative 2. That's negative 1. The camera's not showing everything. There we go. All right, now the y's. The y's, we just simply add the k. So it's a plus 5. So 4 plus 5 is 9. 1 plus 5 is 6. A quarter plus 5 is 5 1/4. If you want it as a decimal, it's 5.25. 5.25. And I'm going to do one more problem. I realized I did give an example with A. So there's one more problem queued up, and we'll get to it, all right? It'll be the hardest type of problem you get today. And quick note, since we just did our shifts, this is our final answer before we move on. But this right here is our final answer, and that's what you want to box. And then you could graph it. All right, it is 3 times 5 over 7 to the power of x minus 1 plus 3. Now, I would say this would be the hardest type of question I would expect you to do, but I don't think it's hard itself. But I would say, maybe I should say it. It's more of the most complicated question you're going to do. Not the hardest, but the more complicated question. So let's take care of this. So y equals 5 over 7, x minus 1 plus 3. So I want to do the base table. Now the base table, I'll just make sure this is right. So my base table is going to be without the horizontal or vertical shift. So no k, no h. So that's going to be 3. And that's going to be, what is it? 5 over 7. So 5 over 7 to the x power. No h, no k. All right, so let me make my table. X, y. And when it's the base table, let's label this base, you always go -1, 0, 1. So now we're going to plug in x's for this. So let's actually do the math slowly. So first one is going to be 3 times 5 over 7 to the -1 power. So this one is going to become 5 over 7 to the -1 power. When you have a negative power, you flip the fraction. So it's 3 times 7 over 5. Now 3 could be written as 3 over 1. So my final piece of answer here is 21 over 5. I can reduce that, if you wish to 4 1/5. And if you want that as a decimal, that should be 4.2. I'm going to leave it as a fraction though. So that's 4 1/5. Or I should say, not leave it as a fraction, leave it as a mixed number. And again, that's 4 1/5, which is 4.2. Make a little bit more space for myself. Anything to the 0 power is 1. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So because there's a 0 power, I know, and I'll just do my work here now, is 3 times 5 over 7 to the 0 power. Well, anything to the 0 power is 1. So 3 times 1. That's really easy. That's 3. So I'm going to put 3 right here. 3 right here at the 0 column. Okay, last, but not the easiest, but not the least either, is going to be 3 times 5 over 7 to the 1 power. Now, to the 1 power, it just stays normal. So it's going to be 3 over 1 times 5 over 7. Remember, I could put over 1 because it's a whole number. So 3 times 5 is 15 over 7. If I were to rewrite that, it would be 2 and 1 over 7. Which, if you had it as a decimal, should be 2.14 yada yada something. So over here, it's going to be 2 and 1 over 7. That is my base form. And this, I would say, is the hardest part of this question. So that's the hardest part, definitely finding the base form. But now, the shifts are not that hard. So let's do the shift, which will be our final answer. And before I do the shift, I think I did it in the beginning of the question. last time, so let's do it now. H, it's -1 in the equation. So H stops being -1. We got to flip the sign, so it's +1. Well, K, instead of being +3, is going to be, oh, it stays +3, because K stayed the same. Somebody was probably going to correct me as soon as I made a mistake, but I didn't. All right, so it's H is +1, so we add that to the X value. So -1 plus 1, that's 0. 0 plus 1, that's 1. And 1 plus 1, that's 2. For the K's, now we're going to do adding. 3 plus 4 and 1/5. So you just add the numbers in front. So that's 7 and 1/5. Let me make that a little bigger. 7 and 1/5. Okay. And then the next one. So the next one is just 3 plus 3. 3 plus 3 happens to be 6. And notice, when it's a decay, it's getting smaller and smaller. The last one, 2 and 1/7 plus 3, you add the numbers in front, so it's 5 and 1/7. If you want that as a decimal, that should be 5.14, and this one should be 7.2. Right here, we have our shift table done. Oh, man. And I'm done with the question. So what I ask you guys to do is try your best on the homework. Definitely complete the first set of questions where you're just doing -1, 0, 1. And then try your best on the shifts. We'll practice more about the shifts tomorrow.